Hey, this is Gene. I just want to talk a little bit about that song that everybody's talking about, Jason Aldean. Now, I like country. I'm not a huge fan of his. Some of his music I like. I think it's too more modern when it comes to country. But this song came out about 2 months ago, and there was some stirring back then about it. There was actually a video before that at that time, and they didn't really like what he was talking about because they were exposing. He was exposing basically the BLM riots and stuff. So it had a little bit of coverage, but nothing until he actually put the new one out. Everybody went crazy about it, and all the leftist mainstream media had to say something about it. And it's always these white people, or Jews, that look like white. Now again, what I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be more unifying than what I usually talk about. And the reason why I talk about some of the other issues is that people that have my opinion just want to talk about something like this are shut down. We're called racist or whatever. And these are things that would never really stick with me because I've always been in places that uh, women were in, people from other races were in. We had to work together. I was in the military for almost a quarter of a century. So you always had to have time to work together. We didn't give a shit about race, and I didn't grow up even looking at race. And I went to a middle school that was 80% black, and I never, it was never really. We didn't really think about that in the late 80s and the 90s. It was kind of like that was solved, even though we still talk about slavery and all that stuff in school and said it was bad. But we didn't look at it. We used that word that Martin Luther King said about just judging people on their character and not the color of their skin. And a lot of people from my generation, I'm a Generation X, that's how we grew up. And yes, we progress in this country so much that's great. That this whatever you want to call it, liberalism or progressivism, even though it was the Republicans that that gave the blacks the right to vote. But anyway, but I want people to understand when I talk about some of the foreboding type of things on this channel, it's because we're not allowed to talk about it. And when I grew up, they talked about it all the time. It was on 9 o'clock in the morning on Donahue. They talk about the Holocaust, or they talk about everything. And now we're so offended that we can't, and we can't just talk about it and have a debate about it. We don't have to have so emotion about it. We always, as a country, we want to become better, and that's what the founders wanted. You might call them white supremacists, but the founders wanted us to be a perfect union, continually striving for that. And obviously, we did things in the past, and we try to get better from. But let me talk about the point of this video. When it came out, and the same people had to say it was bad, that it was racist, that the courthouse was a site of a lynching and all this stuff. They had to make it more and more like apparently Jason Aldean is this white supremacist, or what they believe what that song is saying is you go to a small town because apparently there's only white small towns. There's not small towns that have a lot of black people in it or Hispanic people in it, and even in the same places where more people are white in those small towns, they just think that small towns don't have the same progressive ideas when it comes to racism. Now, there may be this part of town that is dominated for black people and dominated for white people, but when shit happens in the town, they always come back together and help each other out. This has always been what a stereotypical small town is in the United States. It's always been that way in my lifetime, to say that. I mean, obviously, I get it, but when people get upset, it's always the elitist people. If they end up being black, they live in white suburbs or Jewish suburbs. They have a mansion. They don't really live the life of a small town. And then they say that Aldean grew up in Macon, Georgia. Well, I've been to Macon. It's a small. It's bigger than a small town, but it's small. It's spread out, right? And he didn't write the song. People in his band did. So I would have to ask where they come from. But I know, being from small towns, I grew up in Belleville, Illinois. It's a small town. I grew up around Dunedin, Florida, when there was nothing there, I would call that a small town. It's what you decide what that means. But still, when shit hits the fan, it happened here in Huntsville years ago. I wasn't living here back then, but they had a huge F5 come through this country, or F4, and people obviously banded together and helped each other out. That's what we do in the South, and that's what we do for small towns in the Midwest and out West. This is what we do. We don't look at each other. They don't. When it comes down at the very end of everything, when the shit hits the fan, we don't give a shit about the color of your skin. We're gonna take care of you because you're part of us. You're part of our community. Once you come here and you're accepted into that community, we're with you, 100% all the time. There are bad people everywhere, regardless. But the overwhelming people that live in small towns, they may look at you differently when you first get there because they have to understand who you are. If you're like living in a small town in the South, you come from California, people are going to think, oh my God, this liberal's coming here, they want to change everything. And then that might be the case, but the times you've been there in the small town, guess what happens to the person that came from California? All of a sudden their values somewhat change, they become slower, they adapt to being in a small town. Or they stay in their mansion or wherever they live, and nobody's going to care about them anyway. But even if something happened, the people in the family in the small town is going to do it. If you're on the side of the road, people will stop and help you. This is what they do. People just don't understand the difference, and this elitism that we have for people in the cities, on the West Coast and the Northeast, and Baltimore or what, they think that they understand what salt. They forget what the small town built this entire country, and you have the ability to go to New York and live your life, but you're going to get you think that everybody in New York really gives a shit about what happens to you? In a small town, people do care about you. So what I really loved about this, I mean, again, I'm a country person, and I looked at the thing, and I said, I do understand to a point, because if we go all the way back, we can make faults with anything. This one guy on there said it's a sundown town. If you don't listen to what we have to say when the sun goes down, we're going to kill you because you don't believe what we believe in a small town. So they put the stereotypical idea that everybody in a small town is this way. That we're like, they'll have to be all white, and if they're all white, then we're not going to care about anybody who's black or Hispanic or anything like that. We're just going to, or Asian. It's just, they just don't understand how things have changed so much. And what are the real racists? It's the people up in the north that actually have this idea that black people can't help for themselves at all, that we continue to just give people all this money, and that's something that'll make it better for their communities, instead of what really needs to be happening in those communities. And we all know what that is, fathers in the homes. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, Hispanic, Asian, that's destroyed everybody. And it is the most simple thing that needs to be changed in those communities. But when we talk about the small towns, that's all this thing talks about. Yes, it shows footage from BLM riots, and people don't want to talk about that because they don't want to. I don't understand how certain things happen. I think it's all there for everybody to see. Most of the people that he actually shows in the video happen to be white. They're Antifa type things, soy boys, guys that don't look like they do anything. It's like, oh my God, when you're thinking about somebody that's doing a car tracking, it must be a black person. It's not people that, I don't think that way. That's not my first thing that comes to when that happens. But these people that are against this song, that thinks that it's racist, that's what they think. They think that every black person has this thing inside of them that must mean that they're a criminal in some way. And the only way we can fix that was with money or putting them somewhere else, not where I'm at, because those guys do not live there. All these race baiters and stuff don't live in where the black people are, because in their mind they think that's all black people are this way. So when certain people that are black that actually, I'm not going to say they wake up, but they understand that there's more than just what the victim mentality of the left puts on them, they realize that this is just stupid. And to see so many, and I'm not saying everybody I saw on Twitter or on TikTok or on Facebook or anything like that, or happen to be, they might all be Democrats, they might all be leftists, but I haven't seen maybe 5 that were against this team. Everybody else is like, that's right, this happens. We take care of our own. It doesn't really matter. And like, I go, this girl talked about where she was in a bar with one of her mom's friends or something. And it was a basically all white thing, but they were there. She was a young black girl. And I don't use African American. That thing came up with Jesse Jackson, and thank God he's out of this shit right now because he started this whole stupid thing. They're all Americans, okay? If you want to call me a white American, that's fine. I don't care. And I don't want to. I don't even want to say American. I mean, black anything. Somebody that was not white. I don't know what this. I don't know how to say it. I'm not gonna call somebody African American. I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, but if they want to identify like that. But anyway, she was in this bar, and this guy was, he'd been drinking, so he went over there and I wasn't hitting on her, but she was saying stuff, and like all good old boys do, white, black, doesn't matter. If they see a young woman, this is what we're doing, and people don't believe this as well. They say that everybody hate. This was 10 years ago, and we'll talk about Barbie too, but about 10 or 15 years ago, they started saying that the myth on the left was saying that everybody hates women, and that men hate women. No, men are hardwired to protect women. So you're in a bar and you see a woman being approached, not rightly, like just very over the top and stuff like that. All of a sudden, our spidey senses stands up and says, "This can't happen." There might be one or two of the people in the bar with like, "Oh, now when he's gone, I can go out and do something to her, right? I mean, she's a victim and all that." But 99% of the guys in there, they want to defend the girl, and that's what happened to her. She said they all came up and talked to that guy. She's like, "No, he's just," and this is how women do. He's like, "Oh, he's fine. Eventually, that guy had to leave, and he's like, "I live in a small town, mostly with a lot of white people, and they're all good to me. And every time something goes bad, they always try to help me out." This is, we've been fed, even though I mean, when you think about it, in the 90s, I think that we pretty much passed the torch of racism, pretty much. We all knew that there's still people who are racist in this country, regardless of what color you are, right? But we kind of like passed that, and it all came back again. These people that didn't get the power that they wanted in the 90s, they went into academia, become the professors and all that shit, and they go into becoming politics, and they bring it all the way back. And when I talk about this channel, I talk about not just the surface stuff of it, because most of it is people are being used for it. Who's actually driving this, and they want to divide us over this. This country, clearly, the original sin is slavery. I don't care where you are in the world, that's how it is. We stopped it. It took a long time for everybody else to have some equal opportunity in this country, but we did what we had to do. And for over 100 years, we've been to that place. We've gotten better and worse, but then with the destruction of the nuclear family in both communities, this is the results that we have. We have our children who don't have the same viewpoints of their parents, and so much that it's almost like in a communist state that they want to report on them. We see this with January 6th, where a son reported on her parents about they were there. I don't know if they were actually within the Capitol, but he reported on them. Like, this is like pig farm or some shit. This is where we're at right now. That's why people that were on Generation X, everybody talks about the boomers. We sit there and say, this is all bullshit, because we all used to play with each other out in the streets. I lived in a fairly diverse place. Obviously, even back when I grew up, 80% of the place of the United States was white. It was. Now it's about 60. And you're going to get people who are going to say, this is not good. This is the fundamental changing of the guard in this country. But it's not like black people are taking over. They're still 12, 13%. They're not going up. They're not taking over anything. It's because, the abortion, all that stuff. But it's just, to be honest, not that I want to watch TikTok too much, okay, but when I see so many young black people defending this song and what it means, at time to God, it tears. It really does. Because I remember how it was when I used to play and had friends that were black, and it's this whole thing like, well, I have 2 or 3 black, you can't say that. You see, that makes you racist. Well, how am I supposed to describe them? Because you want me to tell you that I'm virtuous, that I have people that don't look like me as my friends. I had a friend, my second, or probably my best friend ever, last name was Velez. I didn't know he was Hispanic. Fuck, I didn't know. And then it wasn't that long ago. He actually showed me his family, and he married like a Colombian girl, and they had this really dark kids, and it didn't mean anything. It's this idea that there's that yeah, there are differences between the races group wise. You're going to find. I mean, I can say that black people might be more athletic when it comes to the games we play. Okay, I might be able to say as whites that our IQ is a little bit higher in America. Okay, or if you compare us to Sudanese or Kenyans or something like that. But okay, but we're still on the same strata, right? Um, there's differences between somebody that's the highest IQ against the lowest, of course, but there's a whole lot. When it comes to things, it doesn't really divide us that much. What divides us is when we get shit in our mind that somehow I'm the victim and everybody else is the oppressor. I'm a white kid, right guy, got a pool, I have a nice house. I think I earned it from working for hard for a long time. I've been very fortunate. I grew up on the wrong side of the streets, though, baby. Let me tell you, I lived in East St. Louis. Not that anything against East St. Louis, but wasn't a good place to live. And then we came to South St. Petersburg. Again, it was very diverse. I was a minority back then, but there was none of this push. No black teachers would point at me and say, "You're the problem." So they were there to help out everybody in the class, and it just changed so much in the last 20 years. People want to say it's Obama. Fuck Obama. Okay, he had everything. We gave him basically carte blanche to do anything, and then either he had handlers, or people got in his ear, the feminists and whatever. They all got in his ear. And then right away he started making things about race, but it wasn't necessary to do. And he kind of like stroke what's going on now. When a whole party are so much in delusional about things that when we have a vice president who basically screwed her way to where she is right now, it, I understand how the rest of the world kind of laughs at us, even with Trump. And because he said he was going to get rid of the swamp and all this, he didn't do any of that shit. He didn't build the wall. He didn't look at what Biden is using his power as president, whereas Trump did some of that but didn't do enough. But anyway, I just again seeing it, and I'm like, can this possibly help us? Because really, I think black and white people, if they're together, because we come from this. Yeah, I get it. Most of us have this idea of Christ and all that in our life, and black people probably have more relationship with Christ than a lot of white people do. And of course, Christ was not white or black. He was a Jew or Armenian or something from that area, right? And I have issues with Israel and all that stuff. I'm talking about the state itself. I don't have a problem with Jews per se, just Zionists and something that they do, or Israel as a state. I don't have an issue with any group of people when it comes down to third. I would ever say a group of people is predicted to go out and do stupid shit. I mean, we did stupid shit as white people, as a group. But anyway, it was so refreshing to see these especially young black people. And thankfully, a lot of them were women, because it seems like what the Democratic Party or the left is trying to do is just continue to elevate the single mothers in the black community, that they're the most dominant voting bloc that they have. And it's disgusting to see it, because they've thrown out men, and they've used government as the daddy, and then all the problems they have is basically because somebody else doesn't look like them. And that's not good. And of course, they sometimes get a bit loud. And how can you have an actual rational debate with somebody that's always emotional? So it's kind of hard to do. I was having an issue yesterday with my own family, and I got emotional. I said, I have to stop, because I got a son who someone is red pilled, but he's very leftist. My wife is, at one time, she thought she was socialist, but she's still telling me the same shit, that nothing's really happening in the schools. And she knows shit is happening in the schools. And she just basically thinks that everybody should watch or read whatever they want to say. And I'm like, why should they see anything about gay sex or something like that? and we can't burn books or anything like that. Anyway, so I had to stop it. I said, look, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say, and that's going to be the end of it. I said, 10 years ago, I told you shit was happening. Now it's happening, and you know it's happening. So why don't you give me a little bit of a credit of saying I understand that shit's happening. And if you continue to think that how we teach in our schools now that it's not going to affect our kids in the future, you're living in denial because you work in the school system, you know it hurts, you know what's happening. So there was a time that black kids did well in school, not anymore. There's a time we shit. We're absolute shit when it comes to them, and there's too much of this other social stuff that we're doing right now instead of actually teaching people. Okay, I gotta stop because I'm already past 20 minutes. I want to talk about Barbie. I didn't go see the movie. Can't see that anymore. I'd have to get up and leave because I knew what it was all about. The fact that that Barbie Land was basically a matriarchy. They went to the real world, find out that the patriarchy exists, and then Ken gets involved with that because he has to, because he's a man. And then he goes back and he tries to change Barbie Land to a patriarchy, and then they come back and win it back. And then at the end of the day, as bad as the movie was, as bad as what it was pushing out there, saying that men have no value, and I know it's fantasy, it's Barbie, but what you're doing is that you got mothers and their 8-year-old kid, if they're watching this shit, and if you don't think there's a reason why they're there and they're saying what they're saying, if there's no indoctrination, you're wrong. This is actually what they're doing. We thought that we got rid of all the feminists a while ago, but now they're back and saying the same shit. Can't talk about, you can't smell. If you smell or if you smile, that's sexist or something, whatever. So they do this. And then we got people online saying, I don't understand why conservatives are talking about this. It's a thing for so-and-so. And I'm like, because, motherfucker, I'm a father. I don't want my daughter to go see this shit that defiles values men. And what if she has a brother? I mean, let's go back and think, you're just stupid, just like Ken. I mean, no, this is not what this is for. This, and Mattel or whoever was Disney, I don't know who was behind it, but they didn't even show any of that in the trailers. They didn't promote it, even though all the people that was behind it said they were all feminists. We all knew this. They said it was about Star Wars. The first Star Wars was okay, Force Awakens. How can you fuck that up? You're always gonna see the empowered female. That's how it is. It's going to be, and it gets to a point where it's almost a parody of itself. You could say that this whole thing could have been a satirical thing that they want to do, like, what was that thing with the ants on the storm troopers, whatever. It was a satirical look at things. Now, all of that, as bad as the movie was, how messy it was, well, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot of it, okay? Just say that I've got people sent me stuff, and I see pretty much of it, all of it. I know all the scenes, because I will not go see it. And I won't go to Oppenheimer ever probably either. Anyway, we know this. So we know at the very early of the movie, they live in a matriarchy, right? Matriarchy. So everything's great, it clearly is. It's because women run everything, so it must be better. And then Ken goes there, sees the patriarchy, and is like, oh my God, I have power now. I'm going to take it back to Barbie Land, and I'm going to take over. And meanwhile, because he's so smart, he waits for like 2 days before he actually installs. They went through like a whole vote, and then like a Supreme Court thing, which only Barbies are on. So at the end of the movie, there could have been a great thing at the end that said everybody should live together equally. They didn't do that. They went back to, it was going to be a matriarchy, and Kens were all going to be subservient to Barbie. This is what the feminist movement has always been about. It's never been about equality, especially third wave or fourth wave. This is about women's superiority. And it's one of those weird, they definitely want that kick, that they want to eat the cake and the pie and everything else and have no accountability. And if you actually watch anywhere on my channel, there are things when I talk about women have no accountability in this. And this was years ago I said this, that we treat women as retarded children. And I'm hearing people now saying this. They don't say retarded because you can't say that, but they'll say as children. They have no accountability at all. When you get to, it's rare when you go to like criminal type of things, women actually go and end up go to jail. When especially when a husband gets killed and the woman's involved, either she's asked another man to kill him, and they still say, well, maybe she was coerced by this other man and stuff. Get the fuck out of here. Everybody knows that women are better verbally than men, on average, and this is what they've had to done for eons because they were never physical enough to do anything. So now their mental stuff, how they use verbals, is the reason why they can do what they can do. And we just basically say, they had no. I mean, they didn't do shit. Men gave them the right, everything like this, the vote. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and there are people out there that will say that women should not have the vote. I'm not saying that it doesn't. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make about all this is it's all the same thing. When you're listening to a song that says we're trying to unite, you come to my small town, and you push this shit on us, we're going to tell you to get out of the house, get out of this road, just get out of here, because we're not going to take it. That's a unifying type of mission. It's not saying you can't come to this town because you're black, or you can't come to this town because you're Hispanic or Asian. It has nothing to say about that. Are there parts of cities or towns in this country that you might consider racist? There are. There are a couple of them for sure. But the vast majority aren't. People are still going to look at you differently if you look different. If I go to Asian part in San Francisco and they're all grouped together and I get a flat there, I'm going to get look at me. If I go into parts of Huntsville and I want to get live in housing there, people are probably going to look at me a little differently, just for a little bit. Where I live right now, we have about 110 houses in my little community. It's probably 40% black in here, maybe 50. These are houses when they started like right around 3,000. But now they're the cheapest ones of these type of ones. The ones across from here are smaller ones. They probably would still start about 350. But my house is 600,000. The bigger ones are 700,000. These are people that have been working for life. It's not like hard-working, black, white, whatever. The race and shit, it doesn't come into anything. It really does not. When you're having conversation with them, nobody says, "Hey, you're my oppressor." Just looking at you, even if we're just drinking so much, none of that shit comes out because they know they got where they got because they were hardworking. Most of them been in the military before. Most of them are policemen or working for the government or something like that, or architects or something like that. They've known the value of working, and there's so much problems here that my generation, maybe the millennials might know this as well, but we push this thing now that it doesn't really matter if you have a job. And if you have a job, you really shouldn't try to work hard at it because, the government's going to, and at the end of the day, is going to give you enough money to live on. When I sit and I hear that people are upset because they can't live, and then I ask them, do a budget, I want to see how much you make a month because these people are still working, right? So 20 hours a day, or $20 an hour. These are people that don't have master's degrees or stuff, but they're working 20 hours a day, let's say at a factory here, and they work 40 hours a week, and that's just the lowest they could do. They get time and a half, so they get like $30 a week or an hour if they work more than 40 hours. But let's just say they work the normal. So that comes out to $3,200 a month. Take 20% off of that. Let's say they have, out of the month, they have $2,000 a month, right? Now, obviously here, things have gone crazy, especially when it comes to apartment costs. It has, and it hasn't really caught up, but they're going to have to do it because there's so much here that they're going to have to pay more and more. If you're willing to work, you're going to get what you need to get, and if you're willing to get some training and stuff, you're going to get higher anyway. That's the whole issue. There's too many people that just want to work that 40 hours, and even then they want to complain about it, and then they still want more money about it. And I don't know what started this because these are our kids that we brought into this world, and somehow they don't have the same type of idea about working because everything's obviously given to them now. Cell phones, Everything's like they can get shit right now. So they're all ADD and they all have the same shit. And they're all depressed and they're all on some sort of bullshit. If they're not on drugs, they're on something else that, whatever. I mean, caffeine, whatever. So, but anyway, let's just say you're rooming with somebody. So you're living in a place $1,000 a month, and you pay $100 each when it comes to utilities. So that's let's say $600. That's still $1,400 out of a month. Okay, how many times do you go out to eat? How many times do you take takeaway? How much do you call DoorDash? How much do you pay for your phone? How much do you pay for anything else? And then when they get down and say, geez, I pay $800 for all this other stuff. So that leaves you with what? $500 to live on? You have to have gas, you have to pay for the insurance for the car, all something like that. And yeah, you start struggling. Okay, how about doing this? Go to fucking Aldi's or go to the dollar store and get all the food there, because the shit you're getting from DoorDash, from McDonald's or something like that is just as bad for you as the stuff you might get from like the Dollar Tree that you can cook up. Or if you go Aldi's, or you can go to Walmart, even though, but places like that, get your fruits and all that stuff and make it yourself. If you work for 40, let's say you work 40 hours a week, that's eight. Let's say, and you don't work on the weekends, so you have that entire time to go out and get us all this shit like that. But just say you don't. You have so much free time when you're not working, and the fact that you don't do anything about it, that you don't improve yourself or anything like that. I don't care what color you are. If you're black, you might actually have better opportunities to go get that, or Hispanic, or whatever. But you can sit there and continually complain, and to think that you think that the entire system is against you, when clearly there's so many avenues for you, and you just will not take it. And I don't understand that. I've had problems with motivation all the time in my life. I've been very fortunate because I had the military that forced me to do shit, okay? So, I probably would have been the same as some of them at this point. But the point is simply this. This country, regardless of what you think about it, somehow they've been taught in colleges or high school that capitalism is the worst thing ever, that the only thing could be better if we're all socialists. Give me a fucking break. The same shit always happens. Every study they've ever done, we're going to give you all the same shit. Let's say you're at a class somewhere, and a woman comes out and says, I'm going to be the teacher, and everybody's going to get the same grade, regardless of whatever you put in there. So you get the guys that are really good, they're going to do it anyway, right? The first time to do the test, guy always gets an A because or girl, especially girls now, they're going to do everything they need to do. They're going to cite everything. It's going to be perfect. She's going to look at it. She doesn't have to look at it. And she just averages all of it and says, okay, I'm going to give you all a B for this. Because everybody was trying it first, at least, right? So the guy that just started and did everything to get that isn't going to get the B. They're going to be kind of upset about it. The people that didn't do shit and got a B, they're going to do anything anyway. And what happens is it'll continually just go down. Everybody's not going to do anything, and they're all going to get Fs. Because the people that continually work, they're going to say, why have I been working? So they're not going to do what they're going to have to do. So you're never going to get ingenuity. You're not going to get intuition. You're not going to get any inventions. When you it is the idea of this class stuff and the workers against the corporations. Well, okay, we have that anyway for the most part. What's going on in Hollywood that now? They're like, we hear people saying, "Oh, if this goes on for 2 months, it's going to destroy Hollywood." And I'm like, how? How? I mean, are you kidding me? There are thousands of people that'll go on a bus and show up in town to do the same jobs that those guys weren't doing. People, and they're like, and all these people are coming out, and to be honest, not a whole lot of A-level type of actors are coming out in support of this. Some are, but the same old people. But they're not giving away why should Tom Cruise give anybody that's some background person on something? Why? He brought back the entire industry back. He should probably make more money. As crazy as he is, like Scientology and all that shit. But that's not how it works, okay? We have a lot of things in this country that are kind of like socialist anyway. Medicare, how we build the roads and all that shit. There's part of socialism already in our DNA, kind of. But when it comes to most people that have money, unless you're just inherited it, had to do something to get there. And I don't, I don't. You know, you always say at what level is too much? It's not too much for Obama. It's not. I mean, these people continually get more and more money for not doing shit. They complain about the water rising, but they all have houses that are on the fucking ocean. This is the biggest fucking scam. There's so many of them that are, and it doesn't matter what size you're on because they're all part of it. And the only issue that we all should get together on is what the founders were talking about, whether you think they're white supremacists or not. The actual words that they put down is what we're supposed to do. We're trying to make our union more perfect every day. That doesn't mean bullshit, right? It doesn't mean that trans people should, you should be allowed to modify your kids' genitalia when they're 12. Sorry. We have to have common sense when it comes to that, and the Constitution just would talk about this anyway. We can't just have lobbyists and stuff that are just have their own shit. NRA, whatever. You could talk about it so many different things. Personally, I would get rid of everybody in Congress and start over, because I don't think any of them have anything that wants to hurt with actual common people. They might start off that way, but all these, I mean, seriously, stuff that happened in the 70s, Watergate and stuff, this shit, they can do 1,000 times worse and nothing happens. You know, there'll always be somebody, no matter what it is, there's going to be somebody that says, well, this is not really true. And who cares, because whatever, it's not Trump or it's not so-and-so. You know, you have to, the two-party system should be gone. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that we have to have a Democrat or Republican. They weren't even around that was done. So anyway, back to what I started with, this whole thing about Jason Aldean. It was very good to see a lot of people, regardless of race, supporting the team, the song, and what it actually means. You can put anything, you can look at anything and say, this has got some racist overtones. I mean, there's a lot of things, right? You can do that with. Me just talking about it, well, you're a white guy, you don't really understand the struggle of black people in this country. No, I don't. They don't know about me either. But guess what happens? Guy across the street, he's a black dude. We talk about shit. If he wants to bring up anything that he feels that he has the ability to say it, I'm not going to get a gun and say you have the ability to do it. This is what you're supposed to do in a country that you're all Americans. And that's the actual term, legal Americans. And anyway, I'm going to stop because I'm also at 40 minutes here, and I could talk forever about this, about things that are related to this, because it's all related. It's outrage culture that we go through. It happens to me as well. I didn't like the fact that basically all the girls, I don't watch this anymore. I was always a huge supporter of women's soccer in this country. I was well before anything else. I'm talking in the late 80s. I was trying to find them when they were playing the World Cup against Sweden and all that shit. There was no coverage for it. I've been with them forever, and then they went so woke, and they just went behind this woman who's just probably one of the worst women's about anything. And this whole thing about the pay and all that stuff. Again, they want to be able to have the cake, eat it, everything else, no accountability, don't look at any facts, and say they still should get as much as the men, or even more. This is not about equality, it's about superiority. So, I'll let it go. Hopefully somebody will watch this. That's a long video. Try to walk it all the way through if you can. Subscribe if you want. And I want to have a real rational debate about things that actually mean something. Fathers in the homes, the drug issue, regardless of what community we're talking about, the illegals getting into this country and fundamentally changing what this country is. It doesn't really matter if they're coming from Ireland. It will fundamentally change this country, and if they're not going to be somebody that's going to work, we're all going to have this class issue for so long, and eventually we're going to have a civil war over on class or on race. I would say in the future probably more on class, But at the end of that, it might end up being racial at the end of that. If we just get the shit out of our butt and actually realize what Martin Luther King was talking about, even what Malcolm X was talking about, uh, just even Jimmy Carter. I mean, it's not really that hard. We're all humans, okay? All lives fucking matter. I don't give a shit. So let's just have the conversation. Let's talk about all things and try to go forward with it. But at the very basic level, we have to support the family, the nuclear family, and that means having fathers in the home. You guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.